Hey guys, welcome back. BDC Care here. We're back with our weekly Q&A&T. This is season 4, episode 21.
Before we get to the questions, I want to just get a little bit of feedback. I was gonna do, now that we can actually skip through the end of the fight where you wait for your credits and stuff, because that was an sort of a side effect of patching that previous glitch. You can actually get through fights faster. And what I was going to do, but which I didn't do today, was do like a 3 ultimate battle run and see how fast I could get through it as a sort of exercise in figuring out what really is the maximal kind of rate of generating battle points without cheating.
Yeah, and I mean, if people behind the curtain were a bit strapped for time today. So we're going to have time to answer all of our questions, but that would have taken a little longer.
Yeah, but, well, if you're interested, let us know, and then I'll use that footage for maybe next week's Q&A&T.
Yeah, so anyways, our first question comes from, and I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce this first name. It's Germie Fuentes?
I don't know what the because it sounds like a Hispanic name, Fuentes. So is the G like pronounced like an H? Like, I don't know, or is it, because like, is it German? Like German Gonzalez is a name.
Yeah, so it's like Germie.
So is it like a nickname for German? So it'd be like Germie? I don't know. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, so Mr. Fuentes, you can go ahead and
Mr. or Mrs.
We
don't know whether that's a male name or not, right?
Yeah, that's true. Fuentes, please let us know how to pronounce your name.
Although, if we had to make a guess, YouTube tells us in our stats that 99% of our viewers are male.
Yeah, which is high.
So I think our best guess is probably it's a guy's name.
So they say, guys, can you help me out? I want to know if Rebirth Green Arrow is a good character to max and use for future battles. I just got it from this week's challenge. I'm currently level 33 Elite 1. I'm a new player since last month, version 2.20, and I only have a few level 50 characters, no Elite Max yet. So I just want to know if it's worth it to focus on this hero. Please help me, guys. Thanks. I also got only few gears. And I think before we answer the question, I think one thing that's interesting is that you're a new player since last month. I wasn't aware that we were getting that many kind of new people coming in and out. That's cool to know that there's people still discovering our channel.
Yeah, I know there's some kind of action like that because we're still accumulating newer subscribers, but maybe not at as quick a rate. And I always it surprises me that after like the peak, I always thought that we would plateau and it would just slowly.
Yeah, that there's like no way that new people would start watching us.
We slowly sort of bleed out subscribers until we drop, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So the first point, I'm going to talk about maybe a few sort of disparate, different kind of points, but that'll be useful in answering your original question. So here's the thing. Maxing out isn't as good as it used to be, right?
Yeah.
Before, maxing out meant level 40 Elite 5, and now maxing out is level 60 Elite 10. So the issue is that maxing out a character before you have good gears, it's only useful for single player story mode. So when you're offline and you're trying to make it through the 8 screens of fights, it's actually not even any good for Survivor or for Breakthrough. And to me, it comes down to this, that the temptation is to focus specifically on the characters, but the real importance is in gears. And you mentioned that you've only got a few good gears. Gears are absolutely critical, and that's, I guess, pun was not intended, are absolutely critical for playability in every facet.
Yeah.
They are good for everything.
Oh, look. Raven.
Yes.
Raven.
Well, I like that team. It's fun. It's not going to really hold up very well.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah. So with the number of repeats, getting challenge characters is always a good method of building up your roster and building up copies so that you can elite your guys if you want. And so the problem with that is, it's not really a problem, but in terms of how it affects the way people play and your strategy.
And especially like difficulty curve.
Yes. It's way easier and faster to build up strong characters, compared to maxing out the right gears. And when I say right, there's lots of gears, and not all of them are going to be useful. There's really a handful of gears, I think, that I like to use the most.
Yeah.
And so this concept is actually, I can't say it enough. I really want to state it explicitly. And okay, so you know what? Maybe just a little bit off topic. It's the same reason, bear with me, why people on steroids who take anabolic steroids have so many tendon tears when they work out, because it's really easier to build up the strength in their muscles faster than the tensile strength of their tendons. So they end up building up enough strength to rip apart their tendons. So they can generate enough force and boom.
Oh, that sounds unpleasant.
And it's still possible when you work out, right, that you can build up enough strength to rip your tendons, but it's way easier because anabolic steroids helps you build up muscle way better than connective tissue. Anyways, so kind of the similar thing where it's way more tempting and easier to build up characters, but even though the gears are more important, it takes longer and it's harder to have patience for because you're not actually... People don't have the same, I guess, association or that kind of the good feeling about certain characters that they want, whether it's even if independent of how good they fight or how good their specials are or how their stats are, we develop an affection, I think, for certain DC universe characters.
Yeah.
So as a general principle, you have to find that balance of what you're comfortable with between maxing out cards to make it easier to farm credits in story mode, in the one place where higher elite max promoted cards are useful even without a lot of gears, versus getting a decent roster that can help you get the online exclusive multiplayer season rewards, right? Mm-hmm. So if your characters are too strong, you're going to have trouble winning online. If they're too weak, it's going to slow down your credit farming.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good sort of segue into why the challenge reset is probably the most important glitch, especially now that the character challenges with repeats, they're coming back at 1 week intervals.
Yeah, you just need to max elite somebody, you just need to do like 1 in a bit a day, right? Not quite 2 a day.
Right. So it's pretty easy to max out a gold that can let you farm.
Yeah.
And there are enough different golds that come through, because remember when challenges used to be like 3 weeks, they take a break and sometimes there'd be a week or 2 off in between. So there are enough different golds that you can also keep a few. So you max out a few, and then you keep a few at Elite 0 or 1 or 2 maybe, so they can stay useful for multiplayer. And you can win in multiplayer even while you're working to max out your gears. Because once you get past maybe on the goals that are Elite 1 or 2, you're going to be facing guys with way better gear. And even though their stats might be close to yours, they're going to be way more effective than you because you don't have the good gears.
And they'll probably end up kicking your butt.
Yes. So the main thing you need to get comfortable with is the idea that the guys you max out now to Elite 7 or Elite 10 are going to be useless to you in multiplayer until much later when your gears improve. But for now, in the short term, they're going to be really important for farming the credits that you need to buy packs, which includes the gear packs. So the long answer to your question is sort of all that together, but when you pull it all together, if you like Rebirth Green Arrow, then it might be a hard decision to max him out, because it means that you're going to have to avoid using him in MP. I mean, assuming you want to win in multiplayer for a while until your gear gets better. And getting gear takes a lot longer. It takes a lot more patience. So if you like him, maybe wait until the next each week at the challenge. You're going to get an opportunity to get another gold character that you can max out.
Yeah.
Use him to farm, or him or her to farm, and save whichever ones you actually like playing with at a relatively low elite level, so that you can have some fun in multiplayer with them.
Yeah.
I think that's my best advice. What do you think?
I think that's good. Yeah, I think for sure that makes sense. So I guess the main takeaway is that the value of a character, if you're considering it an online play, isn't actually their elite level at all. In some cases, it's better to have them lower.
So this is a perfect example, right? I mean, this is not a low level at all by far. This is Elite 5 of a Flashpoint team.
Yeah.
They are getting maximum battle points, so you can't get more battle points than we're getting here. They are super effective. And if they were a little bit lower, you'd still get close to this point, the same kind of points, and we'd be facing even weaker opponents.
Yeah.
So part of the thing with Injustice is there's so many different tasks that you can do, and they don't necessarily overlap.
Especially considering the attacking build power faster for you versus the enemy. Right. That happens differently in different fights. There's really like totally different strategies, right, in online versus offline as far as specials go.
Yeah. So bottom line for that answer, I think, is pick a few guys that maybe you don't mind that there's going to be a huge chunk of time before they're going to be any good for multiplayer. Yeah. Use them to farm, max them out, get to the bonus battle 6, make a lot of dough, spend it on gear packs, and maybe get the right gears fused, the ones you like to play with, that fit your style of play.
Yeah, so there we go. That's the closest that we have to a guide for kind of order of operations for stuff. Yeah. And our next question comes from Jack Robinson, and they say, what are the best characters to heal your team?
All right, so this reminds you of a joke. So who's richer, Superman or Spider-Man?
And unfortunately for you, I know the punchline.
Okay.
Batman.
Right. So it's sort of a roundabout way of saying that it's not necessarily the question that I think is the right one to ask, but that's a whole different thing, right? Because that really goes towards our style of play, not necessarily the right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
So you've got a few options, right? The two main options I think are Harley Quinn, because her special 2 can heal her teammates, and you can use her with or without her dual revolvers, so that even when you don't pick the team heal, you'll still give a team heal because you're using her special 2.
Yeah.
The other main option is somebody who's got really good high damage multi-hit combo ender, and you give them Gauntlets of Azrael, and you give them other gears to increase their damage, so it increases their how they pass on the health to their teammates. So I think the two prototypical, the best kind of guys like this would be Jessica Cruz Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Or
for sure.
I think is it only Deathstroke, or does Flashpoint Batman and Flashpoint Deathstroke also get multi combo ender hits that would help with that?
Yeah.
But that's really it. Now, the reason why I feel like that is not the kind of question I would want to ask us, at least, my feeling is it's actually better not to heal. Not that healing is bad, but
yeah, and not in every situation. Just
right. It's an opportunity cost, right? So let's say instead of a healer, you could have your third slot on your team could be another specialist or a basic damage dealer, right?
Yeah.
Because there's enough gears that you can have 2 on each team that could do that. And a good example of that is in our Arkham Asylum team, Arkham Asylum Pack team. Well, although I guess it has a healer, she's infrequently used to heal.
Oh,
I guess we could. Yeah, we're not answering that call.
There we go.
Yeah, that's not going to get answered now anytime soon. But the better really to have a third card that has good offensive potential. So for example, like from the way we play, by the time we realize we're in trouble and need healing, the one guy that probably needed the healing the most already knocked out.
Yeah.
So, for example, when we're facing a Flashpoint team, right? We get in trouble, they do so much critical damage with the destructive blows. Our health is low, and before we know it, our health is gone.
And by the way, this is non sequitur. For anybody who's wondering how to be successful on YouTube, it's professionalism.
I think there's different different interpretations of that word. I don't think that word means what you think it means. But all right, so in that case, our healer technically is Arkham Harley Quinn. We very rarely use her for that, and she's basically repurposed for damage or damage boost, right? So we've stayed at 2 bars. We got a guy who needs healing. Oops, he gets knocked out.
Yeah,
we're gonna spend our 2 bars on something else. So if you here's the problem with making your damage dealer your healer when you've got Gauntlets of Azrael. It means that, they're still going to be good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're giving up a gear slot that could otherwise increase damage. So you're doing a little bit less damage so you can heal. But it means that they're not getting knocked out as quickly, more chances to do damage to you, more likely you're going to need the heal.
Yeah.
So if you flip it on its head, let's just do more damage. Then we don't need the heal because we've already knocked them out.
Yeah.
You know what? There's a third option too, which is probably less flexible. It's got less opportunity to play it like that. Is Dawn of Justice Wonder Woman, who on a Justice League team, when she spends her power on specials, half of her special damage ends up healing her teammates, which is not bad. But I'd rather, if anything, have New 52 Wonder Woman, who will give power to her teammates instead of healing. And again, it plays to the just more damage, more offensive potential, and then you don't need healing the same way.
So there we go. Our next question comes from Gaurav Joshi, and they say, "Hi guys, I have a first question for Q&A&T. Well, before that, you guys are awesome. Keep up the good work." Thank you.
Thank you.
They say, I have started playing this game for about 4 months now, and I doubt that Warner Brothers will relaunch old characters' challenges again. All Red Sun series, Arkham series, etc. I won't spend money on this game, but I would also love to experience that overpoweredness with Flashpoint Team or Dawn of Justice Team. So do you guys think the same way? I think what you're asking is, do you think that they're not going to bring it back?
I guess you think they're. I guess do you. If you look at where the question mark is, it's right at the end after asking about the joy of playing with an overpowered
That's true.
team
Are they
too.
Are they going to come back?
Yeah. All right.
We can answer both a little bit.
I think so. I mean, everybody can have their opinion. I think it comes down to one of those questions that we answer a lot with. Nobody knows except for the developers, and even sometimes I think they change their minds and they arbitrarily make a change.
Yeah, especially with the repeats, so I think there's a decent chance that it'll eventually cycle back through.
So here's the thing, right? I mean, for the longest time, there were no character challenge repeats.
Yeah.
Each update had a limited number of characters. You would get them each challenge for 3 weeks. They would space them out. There'd be gaps where you wouldn't get a challenge. And
it made things a little more exclusive. It really did feel like once you lost it, it was probably gone.
Right. And then your only option, instead of waiting for the challenge to repeat, was to buy up their promotions.
There we go.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? Things change, and you can make a prediction based on what they've done, but they've also shown us more than a few times that they're willing to mix things up. And so it's possible... I hate when my thick fingers touch stuff. So it's possible that they will come back. Now, you don't necessarily need to wait for the challenges, right? Because all the Red Sun characters are available when the Red Sun pack cycles back in.
Yeah.
All the Arkham characters are available, but it also means that you have to grind a bunch and have a lot of cash or power credits available. So, yeah. And I guess this comes back to the first question, too, that we had this week, right? About the overpoweredness. I think, aside from the Flashpoint team, I don't think there's any single team that's overpowered. I think there are gears that are overpowered now.
Wonder Woman.
And, I mean, really, overpowered is, at this point, is only from an offensive point of view. Because there's nothing really that stands out defensively except maybe the Green Sun team with Green Lantern. So yeah, maybe I might not. I think if you really want to experience the game, you've got to make the commitment to improve your gears before you worry too much about the characters, because I think you can make it. I've got some footage of a team with Static who's been he was a challenge it feels like years ago now.
Yeah.
And any team at this point with Tantu Totem almost you could make overpowered if you just set it up right.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely teams that are easier or harder to play. I think what's more important is teams that are fun to play that also have that same kind of consistency of winning. So Flashpoint team, yeah, overpowered maybe, but it's works better as a grinding team than it does as a kind of an interesting team to be kind of engaged in, because there's not as much variety in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? You're basically just whacking them hard and quick and swapping out little bits here and there if you need to
which always has its
special.
place. Always has its place.
Yeah. It makes use of the fundamentals, but there's some really interesting teams, with damage over time or various stuff like that, power drain, right? There's other little kind of gameplay loops to structure your team around that give you a lot more variety.
Yep.
Yeah. So there we go. Our next and final question comes from Heath Achatz, and they say, any thoughts on the life/longevity of Injustice?
It feels like we've answered this a few times before, but maybe not exactly this.
Yeah.
It's just how long is it going to stick around for? Because usually the question is more like how long are we going to stick around for?
And I think one thing that we can talk about is, which is something that nobody, not even the developers, will know, because it seems like they're trying to still trickle out content for us. And it seems like the way that they've got it set up, this is a more sustainable platform for them that they can do for a longer term. I guess the real question is, how long are players going to want to stick around with this kind of rate of content drip? And I feel like definitely there's going to be a slow kind of hemorrhaging of players as people get tired or bored, and I think it's probably unlikely that new players will keep coming to it. at the rate required to sustain it up until a point. But I think there's going to be a point where, as long as there's some stuff new every once in a while, there's going to be just enough kind of returning players and just enough new players that there's I think Injustice is gonna I think it's gonna hold on for a while. I think it truly dying is gonna be something that, if it ever happens, is a long way down the road.
Right, because this is uncharted territory, I think, right? There's not a lot of mobile games that actually last a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
or even as long as Injustice has already.
And I think this is a different type of mobile game. I mean, obviously there's stuff like Clash of Clans, which has remained big for a long time, and I don't know if that's
that's unusual.
Anybody. Yeah, for sure. And so I think definitely the player base is gonna shrink to a point for sure. It's not gonna stay like it is now forever, and it's continued to. But I think dying, when you talk about like the life of it, right? When you use that kind of terminology, it suggests a more kind of absolute like end.
Right.
And I think
where they actually close the doors, everything's shuttered and it's done, and you can't access online. There's no server support.
And I'm sure that'll happen one day too. But I think there's a lot of points in which you could call like a time of death, right? That would be not entirely accurate. So you could say that Injustice mostly died when the devs stopped putting up content with the same regularity they used to. Or you could have an arbitrary like number of players where if the player base drops below a certain number of concurrent players per like week or per month or whatever you want to call it, you could say that was the game dying too. And whether or not that's already happened or not, it would depend on numbers that I just frankly don't have, right? But I think
that was a perfect example. Last week's question, Raven, about how to deal with her. 2 hits. Sorry to interrupt. 2 hits. Multi-hits. Special 2. Totally took out all her health. Took out our own. Ate right through both switches. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think for me, Injustice will be dead when it either stops getting updated entirely, and even after that, still a little while, because we go whiles without any updates, or when online shuts down. It's gonna.
And the longer it goes, I think it's gonna be. Its longevity improves the longer it goes, because if they don't introduce new gameplay and it's really just new characters, I think in terms of the man hours to develop the game, they've already spent most of it already.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't cost them very much to just keep the servers running for the online play. Yeah. And I don't know that that's necessarily what drives it. I think really what drives it is the new content. So if they come up with one new character every few months, they're probably gonna have enough to sustain the interest.
Or gear probably better than characters.
They'll just have to come up with better things to sell for cash packs.
Yeah.
Is really what'll make it. Because if what we believe is right, then what will keep this going is either income or as a advertising platform to push some of the other projects that they're doing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Injustice 2 is probably the substitute for that now.
I don't. Again, from all the negative comments, it might be just where I'm hanging out. The negative comments for Injustice 2 just far outweigh the any kind of negative kind of energy around Injustice.
Yeah, that's true. So there we go. I feel that's last fight, right?
We want to make sure we remember to thank our patrons on Patreon who continue to support us in what we do with more than just their views. And that's a big shout out to Alberto Jr. Camarillo, to iProfit, and Daniel Simonson, and Lane.
So there you go. Thank you guys, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.